Well, happy Saturday to you. Good afternoon. Dr. Preston Winfrey here. And what a delight it is for me to have this privilege to meet you where you are. Driving along in your automobile, wherever you're kind enough to tune us in and be listening. I'm so thankful. I love you today. And I praise the Lord for another Saturday, another opportunity. Here I am. Health, strength, reasonable portion. I have the activity of my limbs. They are working pretty good. As a matter of fact, the Lord blessed us with some snow on last night. And I thought, maybe I need to go out and kind of push the snow along. And I said, you know what? Why do today what I can do tomorrow? If the Lord gives me another day, I'll get up and I'll go and do what I can. And He blessed me through the night, slept well, woke up this morning in my right mind, had some health and strength, and threw a little water on me and went on out and moved some snow out of the way. It was very pleasant out this morning. Snow was there, but was able to push it, do what we needed to do, and get back in and get on our Zoom call. You know, we had Sunday school this morning, had a great lesson, and so we've had a great day today, and I am just so blessed. Now, so much about me. How are you doing? Yeah, I often ask that question. I give you the opportunity to give a reply. And of course, you know I can't hear you, but I will see your response in your personal notes to me. And I'm asking that you will kind enough to hit that notification bell right there in the right-hand corner of your screen. Make sure that whenever we are live, you will get you'll be notified. Sometimes we may do a pre-announcement that we will be on. Sometimes if I can't get on at the time desired, we'll make mention of that so that you will have some idea when we plan to get on, right? Also, be sure and click on the share button. Because when you share it to your page, then your people, your contacts will be able to see it, and hopefully they will share it also. And that's just a special request that we ask that you do that. If what we're saying is meaningful and if it's of value, then why not share the knowledge, share the wealth, share the message with others. I hope and pray that you and your loved ones are doing well and doing fine on this day at this particular hour. Well, today's talk, know when to pull the plug, right? Know when to pull the plug. That's what I want to talk about today. You know, when you use the phrase, pull the plug, you're referring to an act of pulling or putting a stop to someone's plans or activities, whatever. Or whenever there's a great, let's just say, maybe there's some malfunction. Sometimes it becomes necessary to just pull the plug. I can recall many times I've been working on my computer and you get a message and it says, don't unplug, don't turn it off, and those kind of things. Someone else is using your computer. Well, it just doesn't make sense to me for someone else unauthorized to be using my computer at a time that I'm using it, and then for me to get a message from someone I don't know saying, don't unplug it, don't hit the backspace, don't turn it off. Of course, you know what I do, don't you? If not, this is what I do. I unplug it. I turn it off. I force it off. You know, I just pull the plug. pulling the plug can be attributed to many areas in life. For example, several machines, they have what's called a kill switch. I know on a boiler, if there's a malfunction or there's an emergency, there's a toggle switch that says it's called a kill switch, and you kill everything. You kill all the power going to that boiler. Sometimes it can be a furnace. Sometimes something in a home. Go to the circuit breaker box and kill it. If you want to kill everything in the house, just go to the main and shut it off. I've already talked about the computer. When you're having trouble, sometimes it becomes necessary to force quit. Have you ever had the opportunity or the times when you're trying to shut down and the computer just wouldn't shut down? Maybe it was frozen and you're sitting there looking at this machine and you become so flustered because it's not shutting off, and you're like, what's going on? And you wait and you wait, you wait. Sometimes we have walked away and returned sometime later and it's still right there frozen. It becomes necessary to do a force quit. When a person continues to overspend with, let's say, a credit card, right? You know that your spending is out of control and you have the king helpers and you just charge. Every time you turn around, you're charging and you're running up your bill, and then the next time you go and you present your card to a cashier and they say, oh, I'm sorry, there's a problem with this, it's not going through. They're being courteous to you. They're simply saying, it's not happening today. And of course, we don't like that. And so many people, what they do, they say, okay, well, hold on a minute. Let me see. I think I have another one. And so they go in their wallet or go in their bag, their purse, their pocket, and say, try this one. And they say, oh, I'm sorry, this one is maxed out. Okay, well, that's okay, I have another. And they're holding up the line, and sometimes it only ends in more frustration and embarrassment. Sometimes it becomes necessary, even in some relationships or so-called relationships, to pull the plug, and especially when the relationship is not a healthy relationship. When it's unhealthy, when it's toxic, and it's causing you more grief and burdens and problems than you really bargained for, it may be a good time at that time to just pull the plug. Typically, this term is also used in a literal fashion to describe the intentional act. The intentional act is something that you plan to do, of turning off maybe a hospital life support system. And we know those can be very sensitive and very hurting and damaging situations for those persons who are to survive, because we start thinking, who am I to pull excuse me, to pull the plug on someone else's life. Sometimes the person who's on a ventilator, for example, have been determined brain dead. And of course, in a situation like that, the person is gone, right? It's not always, but many times the person is gone, and the bill just continues to multiply. It's adding up. And we say, but I just can't see it. The person is still breathing. Well, is it the person breathing, or is it the machine that's doing the breathing? And I have unfortunately been in situations where I've been asked, well, what should we do? And I just always have to remind them that it is not my call, it is your call. And they said, well, if it was your call, I said, but it is not my call. Not that I'm trying to weasel my way out of anything, but generally the persons who are responsible for pulling the plug or having that plug pulled, they have to make that unfortunate decision. And sometimes that decision can be hard, can be rough. See, pulling the plug can have negative connotations for several reasons. Let me just name a few of them. One, an unrealistic hope that things are going to get better. Sometimes, we can say, well, I want to keep hope alive and I just believe it's going to get better. Sometimes there's a fear of letting go of what we have become accustomed to, even when we know it's an unhealthy situation for us. Third thing, feelings that I should not be the one to determine the fate of this thing or a person's life. 4, there's this fear of being in the dark. If I pull this plug, if I turn off the main breaker, I won't have any electricity, which means in the wintertime I won't have any heat because my furnaces will not come on. But you're not just turning off the main for no reason at all. There has to be a reason. What justifies my turning off the main breaker? Maybe you're working on something and you're not quite sure where the source of power is, for example, going to a certain outlet. Well, it's better to be safe than sorry. You can either go back to your breaker box and turn them off one by one and run back to see if you've killed the power to a bad outlet or a bad receptacle. Same thing. A bad light fixture. It's easier if there's more than one person in, because then you can communicate and ask, is the power off? But when you're by yourself, sometimes you say, rather than keep going back and forth, I'll just kill everything and get the job done. A fifth reason is being in denial of what's best for the situation. So many times we make it about us. Well, this is how I feel. This is what I'm thinking. But if you can back away from your personal feelings and look at what's the main thing, keep the main thing the main thing, what's going to be best for this particular situation, not to compare it with any others, because sometimes your head can get cloudy. Well, not wanting to feel negative about pulling the plug at times, sometimes I will hold on, hoping that the situation will change by itself. What does that sound like? Sounds a little insane, right? Yeah, right, it is. It's a little insane to think that some things are just going to self-correct. There are some things that, as long as power is there, they may correct themselves. But what about those situations when it will not correct itself? It becomes necessary to pull the plug. And depending on the situation you're being confronted with, pulling the plug could be advantageous, right? It could work to your advantage. For example, your computer, your copier, it gets stuck in a bad mode. And maybe you've tried to shut it down, only to discover it's not shutting down. It's frozen, it's stuck there. You can leave and return, and it's still right where you left it hours later. So what do? Say, okay, well, I'll just wait and I'll give it time to correct. No, sometimes it becomes necessary to pull the plug, and it's called a force close, right? Sometimes, in a relationship, one person is doing all of the giving, right? That's never a good situation. Always you're the one giving and giving. You're the one saying, okay, I understand. You're the one saying, okay, I'm sorry, it was my fault. And many times when it is not your fault, just for the sake of peace. You say, well, I just want to be a peacemaker and not a peace breaker. And there are those persons who will take full advantage of your kindness, your thoughtfulness, your generosity. There are those who will take unfair advantage of the fact that you have a giving spirit. And many times they will take your meekness for weakness. Not that you have to go around proving how strong you are, but at some point it's necessary for you to know when to pull the plug, relationships, And so here we are. We're looking at situations now. There are times when you should know when not to make purchases. When, business transactions, when they're one-sided, when you're the one doing the giving, you're the one making all of the sacrifices, and there should be some sort of return on your investment. Why should they hold all of your money and you not make any interest off of it? Where there is taxation without representation, that can and it is a problem, such as with many businesses today. In the world, we have this DEI, right? And but our people have a DEI boycott plan that's circulating as a measure that we can use as a people, and particularly a people of color, to use to pull the plug on one-sided relationships, right? The 24-hour blackout, there's a 24-hour blackout that is in place and has been scheduled for the first of multiple countermeasures to the attack on DEI. Our first official act is to pull the plug, right, on Friday, February the 28th, 2025, from 12 o'clock a.m. until 11:59 p.m. And the boycott goes like this. Here are some things that we should and can do to help ourselves. First, don't make any purchases on the 28th of February of this year. Don't shop online. Don't shop in the store on the 28th. Do what you need to do before that date. But on the 28th, there is going to be a boycott. Don't shop online. That means no Amazon, no Walmart, no Best Buy, no McDonald's, nowhere. Don't buy any fast food from any place. Don't go to the gas stations. Do all this well in advance. So on that day, we send a clear signal. No major retailers. Don't go into the stores. Don't use credit cards. Don't use your debit cards. Now, I hear you. You're saying, well, what about if there is something that I really, really need? There's an essential. Well, then, certainly you want to use your noggin, use what the Lord has given you. But if it becomes necessary, then try and support a small local business, and particularly a black business, right? We have to stick together. We need to help each other in this regard. And I'm asking, as a special favor to me, I'm asking my friends to post this on their pages. Share this with your contacts, on your contact list. Share this so that others can be together. We need to make one huge human chain with this. Like us on Facebook and on YouTube so that others will be united in their efforts to allow our voices as a people to be heard. You say, well, who am I? I'm just one person. One person can make a difference. And a strand of 3 cords is not easily broken. What do you think happens when we come together? It's been done in our history, the boycotts. I remember when they just refused to ride the buses, right? They're like, we're not going to do it. We're not getting on the bus. We're going to walk to where we need to go. I know we're saying, but that was back then. Listen, what worked then is going to work today for us. We just need to come together as a people and realize this. We have more power than we realize. And the reason so often we don't realize how much power we have is because we don't take time to utilize it. In his time, in this time as never before, let's come together. Let's pull the plug. It's important for us to know when to pull the plug. So this talk today was what? About survival. Survival as a people, and particularly our people of color. And I want to encourage you, feel free to rewind, replay as often as necessary. Let's get the message out. Get on Facebook, whatever media you use, your Instagram. Listen, let's communicate. Let's talk with our people. Let's get a hold of our young people. Let's help them. They may not fully understand, but listen, maybe it's time for us to become teachers. Maybe it's time for parents and grandparents to sit down with the family and say, listen, this is where we are. This is where we headed, and this is where we can be if we will only stick together. The power that some of those others have is only because we have given them power. And so it is time for us to rise up and say, you know what? I'm going to utilize my power. I'm going to utilize my strength. I have a choice of where I spend my money and how I spend it. If you cannot invest back in our communities, if you can't help us, if you are against people of color, then why should we continue to allow you to monopolize our time, our space, our energy, and most of all, our economical power? Know when to pull the plug. Listen, this is Dr. Winfrey saying I love you. And, I'm not often on this kind of a bandwagon, but I think that it has value. I think that it is past time for us as a people, and it's time for us to pull our heads out of the sand and stand up, be courageous, have not only convictions, but let's have courage of our convictions. No one loves online shopping, I don't think, more than me, and the convenience of going places where you feel you can get a good deal. But there's a larger cause here. And my prayer today is that we will come together and realize where we are, realize our plight, and say if anybody is going to help us, we're going to help ourselves. And listen, the Lord does help those who help themselves. Why should we keep praying, asking the Lord to change things if we don't make some changes, right? So we need to become the change we expect and want to see. And so listen, post it. Let's get the message out. Remember that date, February 28th. Pull the plug. We can do it because we can do all things through Christ who gives us the strength. I guess you say, wow, where was he going to even get Christ in? Absolutely, because without him, we can do nothing. Nothing, absolutely nothing. And so I want to encourage you, love yourself, love life, and remember the life you save may be your own. Let us not continue to support and pay others to abuse us and to refuse us services. Don't care what seat they sit in, and I literally mean that. Understand that if you don't give them the support, they won't have it. I'm reminded of a story of a man who was flying a kite, And the kite began to speak. The kite was up in the sky, and the kite said, you know, that guy down there, he makes me so sick. I'm so sick of him. He's keeping me from doing all the things that I really want to do. I could really be this, and I could be that. I could be flying. As a matter of fact, I think I can even go higher. If it wasn't for that fella down there on the ground, keeping me from doing what I'm doing. He's got me tied to a string. Well, listen, fella on the ground heard that, and he said, well, I tell you what, you're high, and you are sick of me, and I'm sick of your complaining. He let the string go, and it wasn't long that there was a great collapse, and that kite then realized the very thing that I thought was holding me down was the very thing that was keeping me up. Those who are riding high, keep it in mind, are riding high because we are holding the purse strings. We're holding the strings. Oops. So know when to pull the plug. Let's do it. Let's do it for the sake of our history. Let's do it for the sake of our future. And let's do it to let those who are riding high realize the only reason you're up there is because of us down here who holds the strings. You have the power, use it. And when it is not working, pull the plug. And when you pull the plug, you'll discover the light will go out. The machine will shut off. The abuse that has been taking place will cease to be, because we will have cut off the supply line. Alrighty, this is Dr. Winfrey saying I love you. Have a good rest of today. God loves you. Matter of fact, He loved you so much, He sent His only begotten Son into this world to save you and me. We were no good, bottom line, right? But He gave His life for us, suffered, bled, and died on Calvary. They took Him down and they put Him in a borrowed tomb, and they thought that it was over. He stayed there, but on the third day, early Sunday morning, oh, I don't need to tell you what He did, but I will. He got up with all power in His hand, and He pulled the plug on sin and death. It said, as many as receive me, to them I'll give them powers to become the sons and daughters of the Lord. And because of that, and because I've accepted Him as my Savior, I now have power to walk on serpents, power that if I drink something deadly, it won't harm me, power lay hands on the sick, power to have some say-so about the economy, power to say yes when I mean yes, power to say no when I mean no, power to run and not be weary, power to walk and not faint, power to take up wings like an eagle and fly above my situations, fly above my circumstances, fly above the roadblocks that are set, fly above the pitfalls, fly above the ambushes. We have that power. And so, my friend, let's use the power we have. We are mighty through Him who loved us so, who's gone back to glory and is sitting on the right hand of the throne of God, but one day He's going to return for all of those, or shall I say, us, who love Him. Alrighty? Until next time, may the Lord bless you real, real good. Know when to pull the plug. And I would say you don't have to wait until February 28th. There's some plugs right now you can start yanking. Let's get it together while we can. Until next time, may the Lord bless you, keep you, make his face shine upon you, and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift his light, the light of his countenance upon you, and grant you peace. Soul is happy right about here.